Hi there. I've been getting lots of questions in the last few weeks about what's happening with the Valencia property market now we're getting to autumn, because earlier in the year I said we'll start seeing the effects of COVID in the autumn, and guess what? I was wrong. It's going to happen, but at the moment I was wrong because we're still not seeing the major effects of COVID. We're seeing some, as I'll explain. But anyway, so here we go. What questions have people been asking and what are the answers? The first question is COVID-19, of course. What's happening? Well, because of COVID, there have been a lot of changes about what people are looking for in general. I spoke about this before. People want outside space. Lots of people are moving from apartments into houses where they've got a garden, where they've got a pool, where they can do exercise. Lots of people are moving to bigger apartments, so they've got that extra room for either studying for the children or to do work from home, because so many people are working from home now. So the market has been pretty fluid since lockdown ended, and people have been trying to move to different places. That's happening quite a lot, and it's still happening now. The demand is pretty high. We're going to talk about the demand in different areas further in this video, but at the moment COVID is having little effect on the market in that sense. But what is having a little bit of an effect is quarantine, and not quarantine here in Spain, because people aren't being asked to quarantine here in Spain. But what's happening is that people who are coming from the UK, from Belgium, from the United States, when they go back are asked to quarantine because of the situation in Spain. Now that doesn't make much sense, because the situation in Spain isn't the same in every part of Spain. Valencia's got pretty low figures for COVID at the moment, but because Madrid has got high figures, Catalonia's got high figures, and Aragon amongst other places, everywhere has been put into this. If you're coming from Spain, when you return you have to quarantine for 14 days. And what that means is that people cannot afford to come down, look for a property and then go back and take another 14 days off. So the market from people from coming into the country is lower than it otherwise would be. However, there are plenty of people, for various reasons as we'll see later, who are coming into the country and doing everything they need to in order to purchase a property. As usual, we've got to talk about one thing for British people, for example, who come over, and that's Brexit. What we're finding at the moment, as I suggested earlier in the year, is we're getting loads of people coming over now because this is your last chance before the end of the year, and at the moment it's looking like no deal. We'll see whether that happens, but it could be just a political thing to try and get some leverage. But it's looking like no deal because the British government is incompetent. So we've got a load of people coming over at the moment, despite quarantine. In fact, we've got quite a lot of people here at the moment who are here in their camper vans to live permanently until they find a place to buy, and they want to get their residency established before the end of the year. Because of that, we've got so many British people at the moment desperately looking for rentals and also for purchases to make sure that residency is established before the end of the year. What does establishing residency mean? Well, it means that they have to have a place to live, which is their permanent address, and they have to do a lot of steps, including getting their NIA number, which is slightly different now. It's a tier number now, and or get a NIF number if they're going to purchase. Our lawyers at the moment are getting those numbers in 4 days. If you go into any of the expat groups, you'll find that people are panicking about this because there are no available time slots to book in order to get your NIA number or your tier number or whatever. Our lawyers are doing it very quickly because they've booked up all the slots, and they just fit people into those slots. So they do it quickly, and that means that you'll be able to get your NIA number. Don't worry about that. Finding a place before the end of the year and completing on it is another thing. So we've got some people who are taking 6-month rentals while they look for a property, but they're establishing residency in that way, as an example. The next thing we're going to look at is the actual difference in the market. We're going to look at apartments first. Apartments in the city. Apartments in the city, there's a big demand, especially if the place is big, and especially if the place needs some form of modernisation. People are looking to get a big place which needs modernisation so they can make it how they like it. We're also finding that, of course, anything that's got a terrace is going quickly. We've unfortunately had a client yesterday who made an offer on a property, and although the offer was higher than another offer, The other offer had already placed their deposit down, and we've talked about this before. The owner would have to give that person twice their deposit back in order to like take the higher offer, and it's not worth it. They put 20,000 down, they would have to pay 40,000 back. That's how it works. Unfortunately, we'll have to find another place for our client. Apartments in the city are in great demand if there is outside space like this. If there's not outside space, they're in great demand if they're big. The smaller the apartment, the less outside space, the less demand there is. The second thing we're going to look at is property, be it apartments or be it houses in the prime satellite towns. We're looking at places like Nájera, like Bétera, La Liana, La Pobla where I live, and other places like that, which are about 10-15 minutes, 20 minutes maximum out from the city. These are very, very popular, especially in places like La Liana, which has just become massively popular, and there is little supply. Other towns like La Cañada, which haven't got such a big town centre with all the facilities you want, not quite so popular, but prices are holding up because they're very close to the city. And when I say prices are holding up, in some cases prices are still rising. What we're finding now as well is a good demand for rural properties away from everyone, if you like, just in case there's another lockdown or anything, as long as they've got internet. Now, internet doesn't mean that there is a physical connection at times. It means that, for example, on your phone, you can find very good connection, because now virtually every company, whether it be Movistar, Orange, Vodafone, O2, whoever they are, they will offer you an all-you-can-eat data package, meaning you will constantly have data and you can tether it to your computer. Now, this means, of course, that some properties which previously wouldn't have been okay for people working from home are now very okay for people working from home. We just put one on the site, for example, in Olacau this week at 125,000, which is a lovely, lovely area. Now, previously, you wouldn't take it if you needed to work from home because there's no physical cable connection. But the internet connection through the phone is really good. And so you can tether your phone there. 125,000 for a beautiful house like this is really, really good. We're getting all sorts of examples like that all over the place, especially in the areas around Via Marchant, more rustic, more rural properties, and also towards Cheste. And we're even moving into areas like Albalat dels Tarongers, Segorbe, areas like that at the moment, because it's a lovely area, and we're seeing lots of properties around there, especially around Torres. Lovely little town. The next question is what's happening with mortgages, because a lot of people want a mortgage and therefore, if you can't get one, you can't buy. Well, mortgages, the restrictions are getting a bit tighter, but mortgage interest rates are really low. We're getting people at 1.5%, 1.75% more or less through the mortgage broker that we work with, and that's a pretty good deal at the moment because they're fixing that rate for 15 to 20 years. One thing that we can say about mortgages is you need to have all your paperwork in place. You need to be able to show that you can pay, of course. The rule of thumb is like 1/3 of your income going on the mortgage is maximum. But at the moment, unless you're buying a very high priced property, as long as you've got a decent job at a decent wage, you should be able to do that. One thing about the mortgages though is that they are putting some restrictions on foreigners more than they were before. Rural properties especially are likely to get 50%, maybe 60% maximum, but if you're looking for apartments in town, 70% and even exceptionally up to 80%. We've got a couple of clients at the moment looking at 80% mortgages, and because they've got decent contracts and good work, it looks like they're going to get them, which is cool. I'm quite happy about that. Now, the big question everyone has got is what is going to happen to prices. People have been saying, what's happening to prices in the next 3 years? And I say, well, I'm not a guru in any sense. I haven't got a crystal ball. My personal opinion is that prices will start to drop once the furlough ends. At the moment, prices are holding up or going up. We're starting to see a few price drops with people who need to sell, but very few. The truth is very few indeed. Most of the prices are holding up and people are getting offers very, very close to their asking price or at asking price. Unusually, just after lockdown, we actually had a property which sold for above its asking price because there was a bidding war between 3 different people to get it. Not our clients, I hasten to add. But when we wanted to take somebody round, we found out that it had sold the previous week. It was up for around 200,000 and it sold for 230,000. It was one of those places which had everything that somebody wants in the city. It had the outside space, it was a good location, it was a good direction. People in Valencia like flats facing east, so it was a very good deal for somebody. It was a very good deal for 3 lots of people in the end. And finally, what's the outlook for property in Valencia, and maybe even for the rest of Spain? As I said just before, I think prices will drop when the furlough scheme ends and the reality of the new economy hits in. This could take more time than I think, because Spain has said that the furlough will be extended, and that means that employers are keeping people on rather than throwing them out with a job at the moment. So it could be extended well into the winter and maybe to the start of spring next year. We'll see. But at the moment, prices are holding up, and we're getting people who are seeing still that despite prices holding up, the prices are really good still. Yeah, they might not go up very much in the next few years, and they might well fall in the next few years. But honestly, value for money, lifestyle, Valencia gives you a lot for your money. Anyway, that's our report for autumn 2020. If you've got any questions, just get in touch with us and ask. Hopefully we'll be able to answer them.